Hello, I'm Isabel, and together with Alessandro, we are doing an interview on burnout and his story and his coachings. So, the stigma surrounding burnout can be very isolating, yet it is affecting almost everyone sooner or later. Why are people so afraid to talk about it openly? In this interview, you will hear an inspiring story from Alessandro and gain insights into sustainable growth. Alessandro Di Giacomo is the founder and leadership coach of Lobster Coaching, an EMCC certificated global coaching provider specialized in change management, leadership development, and mental health. With over 15 years of professional experience, Alessandro has delivered high impact coaching programs in 29 countries and has worked with over 500 clients across multiple industries in the last 6 years. Lobster Coaching's mission is to help professionals and companies to elevate their game mindfully for a world with more driven people. So, first question, Alessandro.
Hello, first of all.
First of all. Before we jump into the topic of burnout, just a quick question. Why lobster coaching?
Well, a lobster comes from an inspiration of a rabbi, actually. A rabbi that tells the story of how lobsters grow. And that has inspired me a lot because I'm very passionate about the ocean. And lobsters have something in common with change, with human beings. Because as you can imagine, this animal, it's a quite, from the outside, looks very hard animal, and it has this hard shell. But inside that shell, it's very soft and very fragile animal. So how does a lobster grow? That shell is very limiting for a lobster. So the animal inside that shell reaches a point of limitation. And in that moment, a lobster perceives a signal and a stimulation to do something about it. It's the moment where it feels very uncomfortable, very much under stress. And so the signal tells the lobster that now is the moment to act. And what it does, it goes under some rocks, it protects itself from predatory fish. And in that safe space, it breaks the shell. It comes out of that shell and builds a new one, a bigger one where it can continue to grow. And once that's ready, he can get out of that safe space, go back into the real world and continue its life cycle. And the story about this is that without this moment of breaking through, the lobster wouldn't be able to grow. And it's in this safe space that coaching happens as well, and where change happens as well. Change is very uncomfortable for us human beings too. So we need to have a space where we can reflect, where we can become more self-aware and understand what are the next steps.
Nice, very, very inspiring where the lobster comes from.
Thank you.
So what is your personal burnout experience and how did you get out of it?
So I had multiple experiences with burnout, actually. I can tell you a story in the corporate career that I had. I can also tell you a story in my entrepreneurial journey, and I think this is the one that I would like to focus on here. Because no matter what kind of story I tell you, there is a red thread throughout these stories that apply to everyone. My personal worst story was during COVID, and this has affected a lot of people out there. In my case, when COVID happened, I was just 1 year in the business with coaching, and I left the corporate world for something that is completely on your own. You're a sole player, and you need to build up everything yourself from scratch. When COVID happened, so I was just 1 year in the business, and the business didn't grow as much the first year. So a lot of instability, a lot of uncertainty, and that has put a lot of pressure on my business because the numbers were decreasing, revenues were decreasing, and also the budgets were completely put on ice for personal development for companies. So that was a moment where I struggled a lot. It was a moment where I doubted a lot on my own capabilities and on the future of what I was doing, and also on my past decisions. So you have to consider I was under a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and it was very difficult to sleep at night. It put me to the point that I was even considering suicide for a while. So it became quite serious, and the way that I got out of it was the necessity to focus on the small things that I could change, to break it down onto, first of all, onto things that could do well with my nervous system. I was noticing that there were too many triggers happening inside me, and I needed to act to bring down my nervous system, surround myself with things and with people that would give me love, that would give me joy, that would calm me, and learn. So this is the phase where I tried to reconnect with myself, first of all. And then came the phase where I thought about, okay, how can I heal now? How can I recover from this? How do I put priorities and how do I put boundaries that help me to ring fence the capacity that I had? And so focusing on the energy that you can give to things was very important.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like nervous system and boundaries is really...
Yeah, it's connected.
Yeah, and really necessary for burnout.
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you think are the biggest mental health challenges for today's workplaces?
Great question. You need to imagine that companies in Europe, as a medium business in Europe, tends to have, due to mental health challenges, about 1.3 million in costs. And that is a big challenge for a company to deal with. That is due to absenteeism, it's due to turnover costs. And the current situation as well with technology bringing a lot of layoffs into companies is exacerbating that a lot. And with that reality that we're living right now, obviously it's difficult for people to open up, be vulnerable, and speak about the mental health challenges. But that is a key element, I would say, in workplaces to make sure that there is psychological safety so that people have a support, a mental support. Yeah. Sometimes that can be outsourced, but I know with the companies that I work with that it is more and more strategic and key to develop a well-being strategy for these companies. And nowadays, I mean, you see a tendency in the market where companies invest more and more to have well-being professionals. So it's not anymore about learning and development, and it's not anymore an HR function, but it is a parallel function to that, to develop a well-being strategy for a company, to bring in initiatives that can support employees, that can support leaders, to integrate well-being more in their lives. And that is a key aspect for future workplaces.
Nice. And what do you think are the key ingredients for sustainable leadership and business growth?
So sustainable leadership and sustainable business growth, let's put it together, comes from, I think we need to look at what is leadership really, first of all. And I think what I often see is that people think they hear leadership, they read about leadership, but they realize, it's not for me, it's for leaders. And this is not the case, because what I always say is, in order to be a great leader for teams, for a company, and to be inspiring for others, you need to first of all know how you lead yourself first. And that applies to every one of us. No matter if you are in the corporate sector, if you are in a small, medium business, or if you have your own company, it's key that you understand and that you live and breathe certain values that are important to you so that you develop a more conscious leadership. And that's the first step. So the key step, first of all, is to understand, how do I want to lead myself before I lead others? So you can see it's a very systemic way to look at it, because after you deal with yourself and you improve how you can manage everything better yourself, first of all, and get to that balanced leadership to thrive better, to perform better, you will automatically have a ripple effect on others, and your team around you will be inspired by that, and that enables you to lead others much better. And as a consequence of that, others will feel motivated to achieve the same, to do the same, and to perform in the same way, and has ripple effects obviously down the line as well on a company.
How are you helping professionals and companies today?
So at Lobster Coaching, with my team, I have 5 other coaches in my company. We deliver a program which is called Heal and Thrive. And in this program, we deliver a 3 months program that is multidisciplinary. So in this program, we help individuals and teams to go through 3 phases of this program. In the first phase, we help them it's called reconnecting. So we help to reconnect themselves, to do some sense making of burnout, understand better what burnout is and why it affects them and how it affects them. Then we go into the second phase where we help them to recover from it, recover from any kind of stress. It doesn't have to be a burnout stage. It can be a stage that is before getting to burnout. So we help them to prevent that. And we train these individuals and teams to prevent burnout happening in the future. And in the third phase, the 3rd month, we help them to revitalize themselves, to re-energize themselves and be more in action of what they want to implement in terms of well-being, what they want to integrate in their day-to-day. Because this is something very important. You can't make a big change and transform everything at once. You need to go step by step and do small changes, because small steps make change more optimistic, and you will feel more confident about it with small steps, and so you will make it happen more realistically. So this is the journey that we help individuals and teams with. What I do in terms of consulting and workshops for companies is to help them develop that well-being strategy that I mentioned earlier, so that they can roll out a strategy that is effective for them and it can lead to reduction of burnout cases, a reduction of turnover costs, and make their business more effective. And look in the long term and make a business that is sustainable, make a leadership that is sustainable, and make a growth that is sustainable.
Yeah, sounds very sustainable. So, last question. If you could give one piece of advice or inspiration, what would that be?
First thing I would say to an individual, I think I want to address myself to a person, is if you are feeling chronically stressed and having some burnout symptoms and you're struggling with insomnia or anxiety, just remember a mantra and just remember that this too shall pass. I love to think about it this way because there is always a way forward, and it reminds me that I can be optimistic about improving my life and my work. So don't forget that this too shall pass, and if I can get a second one in.
You may.
Yes. Please remember that body and mind are connected. And remember to move more, move your body more, because there is so much happening in terms of hormones and our hormonal cocktail, and we can do so much about it through movement. And even just a touch, even just a hug yourself or hug someone, and you will feel that burst of dopamine that will help you. And if you do that frequently, you will immediately feel some benefits with that. Definitely look into those things. And surround yourself with people that have have time to hear you out. And that's my biggest advice I would give.
Thank you. Yes. You will see a QR code here now where you can book a free call with Alessandro to get to know him better, more than on this video, and maybe check in if you want to talk about your burnout or any other advices. So.
Exactly. Thank you very much for listening and watching this, and don't hesitate to book a call and we can have a talk about it.